Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unleashed with Carrie. Today I have Jeremy Roadruck. Am I saying that right, by the way?
Absolutely. Road the thing you drive on and ruck the sack you carry.
Perfect. Okay. Jeremy Roadruck, and I'm super excited for this episode. In fact, earlier today I said we've got to set a time limit because I could probably spend all day talking to him. So he is a best-selling author, a kung fu master, a Pan-American champion, former member of the military, former corporate wage slave, and former factory worker. He has been through many seasons and adventures in his life. Today, he's a speaker, author, teacher, and consultant to families, couples, teens, and kids, helping to improve communication, understanding, and appreciation by teaching people how to play games worth winning and share stories worth telling. Jeremy has worked with students ages 3+, including students with physical, mental, sensory, or attitude challenges, and helped them play the game of life at a higher level. Jeremy, thanks for being here. I'm so excited.
Absolutely, Carrie. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. A fair warning, I have a 2-year-old napping in the next room. It's quite possible we'll be interrupted.
That's fine. We have a 5-year-old, that's why I'm on these things. We have a 5-year-old actually watching, I think, Paw Patrol right now. She just got some shots, so she's going to go up and take a nap. So,
yeah.
I understand a lot.
That's how I roll. And I know I was listening to your podcast and you said, first and foremost, you're a dad. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the most important thing in your life. And I guess that's kind of why you're here today. Like, I want to hear your message as a parent and how you help other parents and kids navigate this crazy world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually easy.
That is so encouraging to hear.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is a lot of people, they live in anticipation and fear, and they create their own headaches and heartaches just because they hypnotize themselves into believing a certain thing about the world. You know, technically, we're the safest we've ever been as a species on our planet. That doesn't mean that there's not violence and bad things happening, because that's just part of the human species. But overall, life is actually really good. But it's figuring out, you know, having some mechanisms, some boundaries for safety as a family and as an individual, and some things like that. And a lot of the challenges we're facing in the world, if you just like pause, breathe, think a little bit, and dig in, you can find some solutions that are actually fairly simple, and life gets a whole lot easier.
Yeah, for me, it goes back to dealing with the present. Like you said, pause, breathe, and for me, connecting with the present. Stop worrying about what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. Stop worrying about what I just said wrong 10 minutes ago, and just like focus on the here and now. And that's something I try and spread to my students and families as well.
Absolutely. It's called the land of is. This is what's happening versus the land of should. The land of should is a bunch of rules and belief systems, a bunch of BS that we just kind of carry around with us, and we don't necessarily question or even know to question until reality kind of smacks into us. And a lot of times you'll have a reality check. It'll be a feather, a little tap on the shoulder. It might be a brick through the window, or it might be a freight train that runs you over. But you're going to get those wake-up calls, and you have an answer. You have an opportunity to answer. And when you don't, the consequences go up. The stakes go up.
Yeah, I think it's so important to question beliefs, but it's so hard too. I find myself in that phase right now, but I don't even know where to start questioning, like what it is that I need to focus on to be a better person, but I have no idea where to even start.
Okay, can I offer something on that?
I would love to.
Okay, let's just start with what you said. I don't know where to start. Oh, okay, well, if you don't know where to start, then you're never going to start, because you don't know where to start, because your identity is tied into I don't know where to start. Versus, I feel like I don't know where to start. I think I don't know where to start. Sometimes I feel like I don't know where to start. Occasionally. And so you begin to soften that identity. And when it's sometimes I feel like I don't know where to start. Okay, but if you did know where to start, where would you start? What would you begin with first? And by reframing that question, you now open the door to other possibilities. When you say, it is, I don't know, I'm not, okay, you're right. When it's I feel, I think, could be, might be, you're softening your language, you're creating a space where it's easier to change, right? If I have a kid tell me I can't control my temper, that's not true, because you're not angry right now. Well, no, but so you're learning to control your temper. No, I'm not mad about anything. oh, really? And then I can like pull something out because I know some family dynamics or something. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're not angry because we're talking about it. Well, no, because we're talking about it. So I'm not angry. But you were, and now you're not. So how are you controlling your temper? Why aren't you upset right now? Oh, so you can control your temper. You just need some time and some distance. Great. So rather than wait 10 minutes to control your temper, why not just do it first?
I love
Oh,
hearing that. Yeah. Is that all tied into the world of NLP?
it can be, yeah. Yeah, but it gets into, for those of you playing along at home, master certification in neurolinguistic programming. Yeah. So yeah, but it's hypnotic patterns too. It's Ericksonian language patterns of just starting to recognize where you're putting your identity and you want to change it, then we got to loosen it up. Because
Yeah.
you say you can or say you can't, you're right. And that's Henry Ford. You know, we become, what is it, Dr. Joyce Brothers, the strongest need within us is the need to maintain our identity. So however we see ourselves, we're going to come back to that. So we have to question that. We have to poke at it because we are something greater than what our life to this point has given us. And we need those moments of conflict and challenge to have the opportunity to grow and expand.
I
So we
think
don't shy
that's
away from it.
I think that's so important. And as we are trying to instill these lessons in our kids, our students, you know, whatever your relationship with the little people in your life is, that we need to use them ourselves. And that changing that, I think, you know, when you work on yourself, only then can you really help the little people around you.
Oh yeah, you can't take someone a place you're not.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you want to help them out of the hole, but you jump in the hole with them emotionally, you're hosed. You just took away a whole bunch of resources. Versus I stay out of the hole, I can go get stuff, put it in the hole. I can like get a ladder and put it in the hole and you climb out. I can throw dirt in, and if you stand on the dirt that I'm throwing in, it'll hit you, but then you shake it off and you can stand on it. We can get you back out that way too. So, you know, I don't have a ladder, I can't get you out. Okay, but I can kick dirt in. Or I can start to tear at the hole on the side and I can start to dig a ramp out of it because I have a stick. You know, it's that our ultimate resource is the ability to be resourceful and be creative. And so we gotta be careful how we hypnotize ourselves with things we say, because again, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, so what was your life as a little person like? I heard you say college clicked for you a lot more than high school. I know that you sort of eked out barely passing your last year of high school.
Yeah,
What's that
yeah.
story?
So I had mono my junior year and probably some depression. So I missed like half of the second half of my junior year, like late January or late February through like 2 months, something like that. And then when I came back, I had to get a jail card because I just go to the nurse and say I'm feeling tired, and I get to go home and take a nap. So you know, I abused that, of course. But yeah, my junior year, I pretty much had every class I needed. I just needed one English credit my senior year to graduate. And I picked a newspaper because a friend of mine did it and had a lot of fun. It was like fun. And I don't like writing the deadline, and I don't like writing about what I don't like writing about. So that was my truth back then. And so at one point, my grades were just all over the map. And my parents said, "Well, if you get honor roll, not even straight A's, if you get honor roll, we'll buy you a car." And I had picked out like a hearse or something crazy. And so I had the car picked out, and it was like awesome. So I got 5 A's and 1 F, and the F was newspaper. And for those of you who don't know what honor roll is, you have to have no D's and no F's. And you can have 1C if you have an A to bring it up. So 5 A's and 1 F is a 3.2 average, which is better than the B average, which is better than honor roll. But the F negates everything, and the F was newspaper, which was, again, the only class I needed. So I had to go and beg the teacher the very last grading period for a special project because I was going to get an F in the class for the year and I wasn't going to graduate. So I did not like high school. I didn't like being controlled. There's a lot of stupid stuff going on. I just wanted to get done with it. And the idea of doing 5 years of it was just, oh my God, there's no way. So yeah, I had to beg, and I got the special project, and I got it done, and I passed with a D, and I had like a 2.62 average, which put me at like 151 out of 444, and I probably could have done a whole lot better if I didn't have that one class, the only one I needed. I should have just picked picked 4 English classes for fun, and then I just got to get 2 of them to work, and that life would have been better. But c'est la vie. That's just how it is. So then college, I don't care. Show up, don't show up, do the homework, don't do the homework, take the tests, pass the final. I can do this. I got a 3.6, no study. It's just, write down the notes. Okay, they're in my head. I don't need to review them, and then take the test. Okay, I passed the test. Yeah, that worked. So much easier.
You were
So
in
much better.
control of your learning at that point. Yeah.
Exactly right. And also it was freedom. I mean, there was freedom of you pass, you fail. We don't care. We're not going to, you paid like $8,000 a semester to be here, and you get it or you don't, and moving on. And I kind of wish my teachers had that sort of a laissez-faire attitude when I was in high school, because there was one of my teachers who actually had a PhD, Dr. Sewer, and he was doing English literature, so we were doing great books of Western literature or poems and things like that. And he would just do what was called a Sewer paper. So Friday morning, you would go into his room, you write down the question, and then you have to answer with like 3 to 5 pages. And it was expository writing, and you had to have, your first paragraph had to establish a premise, and then you had to support it with stuff from the store and other sources. You had to cite your sources, and then you had to have a concluding paragraph, and then that was it. There was no homework. There was no studying. It was just pay attention during the week, engage in classes. So he ran it like a college class, and it was one of the hardest classes in my school, and it was like the best. And yeah, if more stuff had been like that, it would have been amazing. But that's not how school works a lot of the time. They have a lot more rigid structure and accountabilities, and got to measure things. And the state people have to like justify their existence. They create all kinds of measures and tools and toggles. And every year they got to mess with it, because if they don't, why are they there? So, you know, builds
Do,
character.
do you remember what it felt like? You said you don't like to write what you don't want to write about, and you don't like to write to a deadline. I was a writing teacher for 4 years. I developed writing curriculum from 2nd through 6th grade, and I'm hugely passionate about writing and the way it's taught in school and the way it could be better. And most of my students, my teens who I work with, they struggle with their papers. Um, no matter what learning challenges they may or may not have, all of them, even the most advanced students, and I work with a number of advanced students, always struggle with the writing piece. And I think a lot of it goes back to the way it's taught or not taught. What was that like for you, that newspaper class experience?
I don't remember exactly. I remember we had like different styles of articles that we all had to do, because like we each picked a topic of some sort, but it was sort of a limited scope. That had to be something that was relevant to people in the school, and so there was some interface of our interests with their interests, but it couldn't be too fluffy, silly stuff, because every article's fluffy, silly. That's just not going to work. So he's trying to get us to do some stuff and care about some things, but at the same time, you know, having stuff dictated to you. So I remember in 8th grade, we had to write a paper about something. And it had to be 5 sentences, and it had to be a paper about something. And so I chose to write about nothing. And so I wrote, this is a paper about nothing. I'm not going to write anything in here that makes any sense. Nothing is that important. But now that I'm almost done, this paper about nothing actually is about something. Isn't that interesting? And that was the end. Right. So I hit the definition of you had to have 5 sentences, and you had to have like, a theme or a statement to start it off or whatever. And so, I mean, that was fun, because I got to kind of play with this space of nothing and something and anything. Could be paper about anything, but it's about nothing. And that was fun, because it allowed me to play with language, because I liked how language, and I still like how language functions at multiple levels, implicit and explicit. And I think engaging kids, getting them to see the fun and the playful. Large written communication is going down. Text is replacing email, emojis is replacing text. And so the style of communication is changing. But there's certain fundamentals you kind of need to get into your brain that then you can riff off of. And if you get rid of those, you start to, everything becomes jargon and cliquish, and you lose the ability to communicate with other groups, right? In China, the thing that kept it together by and large was they had the same written language. Even if it's pronounced differently, and throw away that base one of communication, we are problems.
I think I'm having some internet connectivity issues, so I might have missed a little bit of what you said there. Hopefully it'll work out for everyone else.
Okay. Well, I hope so.
So you said something about how kids can be jerks to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at one point I heard you say you kind of were being a jerk to yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, I was.
What does that look like? What did it look like for you? And what do you see that students, way that kids are jerks to themselves?
Well, a lot of it is negative self-talk. It's just tearing themselves down. I'm stupid. I'm ignorant. I'm dumb. I'm klutzy. I can't. And descriptors, because what sticks in the brain is when we mess up much easier than when we get successful, right? Most people, they go to bed, they don't think of the 85 things they did right. They think of the 2 things they did wrong. They go, oh man, I can't believe I did that. Nobody else noticed those 2 things except them, because they knew what they meant to do and then what they actually did. So you might do something and somebody else thinks it's amazing, but it's 80% of what you meant to do. So you're beating yourself up over the 20%, and you're tearing yourself down because you're so focused on, well, I had to be at this level. And I think, the selfie culture is kind of driving that, because people are putting out this perfected version of their lives on Instagram and Snapchat, all these various places. So there's this projection of perfection. Never mind, they took 87 photos to get to that one that they actually posted. And so they're putting up this veneer. And then we're not teaching our kids to have the resiliency inside to recognize you learn more from when you don't get the result that you wanted than if everything was smooth sailing. Because if your whole entire life was just, you go see a movie, and in the beginning, it's pretty good. The lives of the characters, they're happy, successful, not a lot of stress. Then, in the middle, life is pretty good, and they're happy, and they're successful, and there's not a lot of stress. And then when you get to the end, they're happy, and they're successful, and there's not a lot of stress. You're not going to watch that movie, because there's no energy, there's no challenge, there's nothing resolved. It's just kind of like, hey, we're doing good, sucks to be you. And so there's that pathos, and there's that exegesis that we need. There's that catharsis that we need. This plot of we're at this level, and then everything gets taken away. And then how are you going to overcome this challenge, and who do you become in the process? And you go through the whole monomyth cycle, and Joseph Campbell and all that stuff. But there's that process of us learning and growing through trial and through struggle and through trial and tribulation that social media kind of just fluffs. And especially for the kids, because the kids, they're not going out and looking at marketing messages and sales letters. And, we, as a business person, I have to look at problem, agitate, solution, and how do I help connect with people in their pain, and how do we resolve their pain? They're not paying attention to that as kids. They're just feeling what they're feeling. And, I'm not where somebody else is. It must be because I'm stupid and I'm ugly and I should go pound sand. And when we allow our kids that story, when we allow them that experience, it puts an extra set of filters in the way of their actual success, because they have this idealized version of how the world works instead of how it actually works. You do something and you mess up and you drive through failure, and that's where you find your success, is by figuring out all the stuff you don't want. So I'll work with a family, I'll work with a couple, and be like, what do you want? And they can't tell me. They don't actually know. And so people aren't trained. This is what I want. I want to see this. Even teachers. Don't run. That's not what you want. You want them to walk. So just tell them that, instead of saying all the things you don't want. Because how many negatives can I do that you're going to spontaneously figure out what I actually want, versus just ask for what I want. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I need everybody to walk down the hallway keeping quiet. Can we practice that like ninjas? Awesome job, ladies and gentlemen. High five. When I say it like that, they know what I want. It's easier for them to achieve. So, that's okay it's okay to communicate that. And we're not giving our kids that ability, right? And they're not hearing it a lot of times from the adults. It's don't do this, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah, and I think we feed into it a lot, and we create those negative stories for students. And I have very mixed feelings about the public education system, or really any kind of formalized schooling, but I do believe it just creates these cycles of anxiety or these negative stories, because like you said, failure is our best opportunity for growth. And as adults, whether in school or in a family situation, we're guiding kids and we're telling them not to fail. We're telling them they have to do it right the first time, or we're just preventing their failures altogether and just swooping in and not giving them that opportunity.
Mhm.
And then when they do fail, they don't know how to come out the other end.
Right. They have no resiliency. They haven't
Yeah.
learned how to bounce back. They haven't learned false 6, rise 7. Right. But I would challenge you, it's not about public education. It's not about anywhere you go is beside the point. It's the process. And it's what we
Yeah.
allow to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of adults are not guardians and guides to their kids. They're bosses and they're teachers and they're in positional authority, and I'm going to learn. Instead, because I choose the experience, right? Nothing has a meaning except the meaning we choose to give it. And so it's up to us to define. I had a lady who was a nurse, and she was 55 years old. And every time I would show her something in the martial arts school, she would be like, "Oh, I'm just the worst at this." And after about the 8th or 9th time, I was like, "Excuse me, can I interrupt that for a second? Can I offer you some coaching?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "How did you become a nurse?" She's like, "Well, I went to school and did." No, I don't mean that. I mean, you have a crappy attitude. So how did you not get addicted to alcohol and cigarettes and drugs? And because everything we do, you're just like, "I'm the worst," which is a lie. Because anything you do for the very first time, is it the best or is it the worst? Because it's the first time. It's both. Which one's going to give you positive energy and momentum to keep going? The best I've ever done, and I'll get better with practice. Because that's the truth. Because you did this the first time, it has to be the best. And then when you do it again, have a new best. So if we raise our kids with that, they become unstoppable.
What are some ways that as adults we can help our kids with that?
First thing is not get that excited about stuff. The kid messes up. Go, "Oh, okay, you okay? No blood? Okay, no bone sticking out? All right. So what'd you learn? What are you going to do different?" And just that question, what do you mean? Well, yeah, you did the thing and you got a result. Are you happy with the result or you want a different result? Well, I want a different result. Okay, cool. What result are you looking for? What do you want to create? How would you know you got the result? Because now you're getting their mind to go out into the future and create this thing they actually want. And then we can roll our way backwards, right? So just the power of our question, because our questions drive our focus, right? Do you still have a polka dotted tree in your backyard? Your brain just answered that question because the brain is designed to ask the questions it's given. So if you say, "What's wrong with me?" it'll answer that. If you say, "Am I stupid?" it'll answer that. Better question is, what can I learn from this? How am I going to grow through this? Right? And so it's we as adults have to start figuring out, what do we want for our kids? So, as a parent, as a teacher, what's your outcome? The end of the year, if it's a teacher and you're at the end of the school year, what is the one thing you want your students to walk away with? Have that as a goal, then you can build everything around it. And not like certain technical skills. That's easy to teach, right? For my parents, my mom had 8 miscarriages. My brother and I are the only 2 that lived, and we're 4 years apart. But they had 2 goals for us. Number 1, make your own decisions. And number 2, live with the consequences. And because they had those 2 goals for us at 18, that was the product that they wanted to deliver to the marketplace, to use a business metaphor. If that was their outcome, then that allowed certain decisions to be made about letting us choose, good or bad, letting us overcommit ourselves or overstretch and fall down and get back up. And they were always behind us to help us if they needed to. But they let us wipe out and skid out and get scarred and all the rest first. And keep us kind of away most of the time from the dangerous, dumb stuff that could kill us. Although not always, because when I was 4, I was on the roof of the house, climbing the fig tree in the backyard, and no one knew. And I was like, "Hi, Dad." And I'm like leaning over the roof. And the 3rd time I said, "Hi, Dad," he looked up and realized, oh, crap.
That hi is coming from somewhere where it shouldn't be.
Well, he looked around the car, and he looked under the car, he looked inside the car, he looked in the garage. The 3rd time, he looked up and was like, "Oh, farts."
How did you get on the roof? I'm just curious.
We lived in Turkey, and there was a fig tree in the backyard, and I was small enough and light enough I could just climb the fig tree, so I did. And then I had to tell my 8-year-old brother, I had to tell him how to come up and get me, because in my brain, as long as I'm on the roof by myself, I'm untouchable. But if one of them comes up, then I have to go back down. That was, I don't know where that came from, but that was the rule. And so I had to tell him how to come up and get me. And then he got up, so basically tag, and I had to go back down. And then I had to tell him how to climb back down also, because he didn't know how to climb back down.
When you were traveling, you were young, right?
Yes.
Do you know if any of that influenced you getting to where you are now? Just seeing different
absolutely.
cultures, different ways families interact?
Absolutely. Good and bad, but absolutely. So we were a military family, and I was born in New Jersey, and then we lived in Turkey, we lived in Saudi Arabia, we visited Greece, we visited Germany, we visited Spain, although I don't remember Spain. We visited Hong Kong, we visited Thailand. I saw the reclining Buddha. This is all before 8th grade. I'm sorry, before I was 8 years old. So we came here, and preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade, I've done international. 2nd grade's the first thing here in the US. And it was really cool because I had all the teachers talk about how there's this kid who's traveled and done all these things, and I got up and talk about my experiences. So I was at this one elementary school from 2nd grade to 5th grade. I didn't have to make friends because the teachers introduced me to everybody, and then I knew everybody, and I was like super popular. It was really easy. And then my dad retired. And so now I'm in 6th grade in a new school. And if you don't know much about kids, somewhere between 10 and 12 years old, the social group fractures and the kids begin to start shifting their identities, and everybody's not friends anymore, and cliques show up, and there's all these different things that are happening in the unconscious world as they become teenagers. And so at 6th grade, I didn't have a social group, and I'm in a new school. I don't know how to make friends because I never had to. It was a skill I never developed. So I struggled. And then in 7th grade, all of the schools come back together where I live. We have 5 elementary schools. They all go back to the same middle school. So now I get to see all these people that I had seen in elementary school. I see them in middle school, and a bunch of them had forgotten who I was. And so that was like unpleasant as well, because it's like, wait, but we've known each other for 4 years. And they had forgotten in a year. And so it was like, what's up with that? And so there was a lot of just loss of identity, a lot of I'm not sure. And traveling around the world gave me a bigger view of what was going on around me. Plus, unfortunately, I experienced some abuse when I was in Saudi, and then again here in the US a year later. That also shifted my awareness of the world around me. But I began to notice just how small people would think, and what they say and what they mean aren't the same thing. And I found cracks in there to play. And I had, because of the abuse, I had internalized that I was worthless. And so then I found ways to get people to reject me because you couldn't possibly accept me because I don't accept me. And that wasn't really conscious until in my mid-20s, when the memories of the abuse came back. I had some new resources and tools in my unconscious. A lot of times trauma gets buried until we're ready to deal with it, or we have skills. And then the unconscious will bring it back and say, are you ready? And then we freak out and it goes, nope, okay. And it puts it back away. Or if we're ready, it serves it up, we process it, and we move forward. And mid-20s to mid-30s, I worked through all that stuff, and processed it, and got to a really great place. The place that I am now that allows me to do a lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, traveling the world opened my mind to a lot of different perspectives and just ways of the world that, I have Kung Fu brothers that hadn't been in an airplane until they were 26 years old. And I was in the plane like 6 months old. So it was just like, how do you make it this long, dude, without like, wow, that's really weird. Like, I can't even imagine. But that's just his reality, you know?
Yeah, that's my big goal in life, and the reason why I'm building my business the way I am, in my sweatshirt and a closet as my background, is because I want to educate my kids about the world by being in the world. Essentially, we want to world school to the extent that we can create that life. And I realized today, normally when I do my interviews, I attempt to look halfway decent and put on a nice shirt and maybe brush my hair. I'm like, but I don't ever want to be producing this show or any of my content in a studio. I want to be in the world. I want to be with my kids 80% of the time, maybe not 80%, whatever it is, and then be able to step away, do my business tasks right there, and then come right back. And that all goes back to what you were saying about having a goal or having a vision and knowing what you want. So we need to wrap up here. I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah. Oh, to say, a lot of times when people don't know what they want, sometimes it's easier to say, what do you don't want? Write that down, and then we just reverse it. Because then you can go like, well, I don't want to have to clean my house. Oh, so you want somebody to clean your house for you? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I like to look at it from the perspective of what you want more of and what you want less of.
Right.
And when I work with students, that seems to be really easy language for them to understand, because they don't even have a context for having a vision for their lives. And really, a lot of adults don't either, because they listen to the stories and the beliefs that they've listened to forever, and they don't even know that can be challenged.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was a kid, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Everything. Well, you can't do that. Why can't I? Just because you can't, or you believe you can't, doesn't mean I can't, right? And I literally had the capability to do anything. I took the ASVAB for the military, and it's like, well, you can have every single job in the military. You're kind of crappy over here in the mechanical knowledge, but with everything you scored everywhere else, we could teach you the mechanical if you want to be a mechanic or whatever. So it was like, whatever job you want, you have free reign. And what do you do with a kid when it's like, we do this to our kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? You can be anything, pick the thing. I'm 7, I don't know. So a better question is, what do you want to experience in life, or what do you want to give to the world? Give to the world's a little challenging for a kid, but what do you want to experience? That gives a much more open frame, and you're not locked into a thing.
Yeah.
Right? I've been a paper boy, I've been a security guard, I've worked for corporations, I worked for Renaissance festivals and traveled, I've done meter reading, I've been all these different things, software tester, I was a temp. I've been a bunch of stuff. Yeah, what you do doesn't define you. It doesn't have to. So
Yes.
you can be lots of things.
So what advice would you have for families who were going through the worst with their kids, probably teenagers, and feeling like their kid is sucking in school, or they're not fitting in? They feel like, oh, I don't know what to do. Because I mean, when parents come to me, that's usually what they're saying is, I don't know what to do anymore. What advice do you have to reassure them or to show them how they can come out on the other end? That's like a big area, but one or two things there.
So one of the first things to realize is there's something called positional authority, which is fundamentally because I said so. And how do you like it when somebody just tells you what to do, sit down, shut up, and do what I say? How well does that work for you as a grown-up? It doesn't. So do you think your kids are going to be less like you or more like you? Because strong parents tend to raise strong kids. And that means that strong kids are going to push back. They want their say. They want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. So let's listen. Let's acknowledge. Acknowledge doesn't mean you have to agree, but at least I can hear them out and get where they're coming from and understand them. And then I can draw them to what I understand or what I see or what I'm concerned about. But I got to give them the floor and give them the spotlight. So what I would say is get outside, go for a walk, and just talk and see where the conversation takes you. Nobody needs to be right. Just get on the same page with each other. Hey, I just want to go for a walk and talk with you. I'm feeling like things are really stressful right now between us. And I'm not really here to talk about why you think it's stressed. Just how can we get things different? If we could talk to each other differently, what is some way we could communicate better? What's some way you would like to feel heard, seen, understood, respected, have more contribution? What could we do to make things different for you? And now in that statement, I said, what can we do different? Which is an unconscious, you and I are on the same team, versus what do you want, what do I want? And that keeps the separation, right? The other thing is by going for a walk together unconsciously as you're talking, you're leaving in your unconscious mind temporal markers of that's in the past, that's in the past, you're walking forward. You see the scenery moving past you like this as you're walking, it's moving past your face. You have an unconscious feeling of moving forward in your life. So when someone says they're stuck, great, go for a walk. Huh? Yeah, just go for a walk and talk. Just talk yourself out of the situation. Because as you're talking, you're literally moving forward. You're shifting your mental, emotional imagery. And the two of you talking together, because we're not facing each other, it's not an antagonism or who has to be right. We're walking side by side while we're both just speaking. And it just lets us vent and get things out. Because once it's out, now we can deal with it. Keep it inside. I don't know what's going on. All I have is my hypothesis and my hallucinations. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling in this moment. Doesn't mean always. Just in this moment, what's going on? How can we make this different? What would you like to be different? And that you begin to open the dialogue, because a lot of times the kids just don't feel heard or understood. And so they're going to push back on all the, well, you're not listening to me, you're not really understanding me. And the kids are going to be a little more hair trigger usually than we adults. Sometimes it can be the other way around. The kids are a lot more patient. The parents are immature and flying off the handle. Right? But it's just, you're both human beings. And it's hard for the parents because you're raising somebody who is becoming your intellectual equal. They can begin to understand logic and language, and they might love you but not respect you anymore, because they see how you're living and they see what you're saying and they see the disconnect, and they want to call you on your stuff, but they still love you, but they don't respect you and they don't know how to say that. And so it comes out as all this other stuff. And then for the adults, stop listening to the tonality of your kids because they're not always conscious of the tone they're taking because their brain is processing one place. So don't take the tonality as the implication of what they're actually thinking or feeling. They may be on this thought process trajectory and you ask a question and the wheels are skidding internally as they turn to answer your question and you're hearing the gears change in their internal world and it comes out as an annoyance. They're not actually annoyed with you. It's just having to decouple one thought process to go into another. And usually you'll have masculine people that'll be a bigger issue for them. They're not so socially acute as feminine people. But yeah, I don't like big, huge, sweeping generalizations. So it's just noticing that and calibrating and going, wait a minute. The tone I'm hearing suggests to me, is that the tone you need to be taking? So before I just flap a handle and how dare you disrespect me? Hold on a second. That answer you just gave me, that tone, I'm taking it this way. Should I be? Or do you mean it another way? Okay, cool. Could you ask it again in a different tone? Thanks. That sounds so much better. But then if you're going to do that to your kids, you got to give them permission to do it to you too.
Yeah.
Especially 17,
for
18,
sure.
19. They're becoming adults.
Right. That's so good. I love that. Just going for a walk, talking it out, and as parents, don't take that tone too personally.
Absolutely. And say we, not you, not me. We
Yes.
have a problem we need to fix. What can we do different?
Yeah.
Because that creates an unconscious, we're on the same team and together everyone achieves more. Because isn't a family supposed to cooperate? You can't do that if you don't know where your teammates are.
Right. So where can people find you? And how do you help people? So if someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, I have to talk to that guy, he can help me. What do you do? How do you help them?
So we have a couple options. I haven't launched my course yet, but I have a family communication course. It's going to be 8 weeks. We'll just transform everything, all the communication, people reading, a whole bunch of stuff. So that's not quite ready yet, but to get in the funnel for that and to be on the notification, plus get a copy of my international best-selling book, the only parenting book with a money-back guarantee, now for free, because it's so awesome. You would go to, it's bit.ly/ and then you'll have to give people the URL, but it's freebook _ your best child ever. And it's capital F free, capital B book _ and then capital Y your, capital B best, capital C child, capital E ever. And after I created that, my wife was like, yeah, Bitleys are supposed to be easy. You made that hard. Yeah, could have told me first. But
I'll put it in the link to the show notes too.
Yeah. So there's that. And then you can find me Facebook, facebook.com/Jeremy Roadruck. And then also at Kung Fu Guy Jeremy on YouTube and on Instagram. Those are like the top places to find me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for being here. Go ahead. I think I cut you off.
Well, I was just say I'm also available, so we can have a conversation. We can set up coaching one-on-one. There's some things we can do, but just reach out. I mean, just hit me up in Messenger and say, excuse me, can we chat for a minute? Like, yeah, what's going on? I'm all about creating value and win-win. And there's enough struggle in the world. I'm not in a hurry to pitch people anything. It's just, what do you got going on? Let's see if I can help.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I'll talk to anyone. And ultimately, from a business perspective, it helps us too. Helps us, figure out what people need.
Absolutely.
So. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. We'll have to connect again because I have so many more questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a part 2. That's not a problem because it's. I have lots of different areas of perspective, and I'm helping a couple. They went through 11 years of marriage counseling, and fundamentally, the husband is in his feminine when he talks to his wife because he's in his head, and she's in her masculine because she grew up with some abusive stuff going on. And so, but their fundamental polarity is the opposite. He's masculine in his core, and she's feminine, but she's got her guard up. And then he's in his head, like all these interpretations and meanings, and it's like, dude, just stop. He keeps trying to come up with engineer. He's coming up with 87 different answers to the thing because he wants covered from every single thing instead of just be present. Right? Just show up and be present 100%. You already know what to say once you are present.
Yeah.
He's in his head so much, it forces him into his feminine, so their polarity's off, and that's their frustration. But it's really easy to see it. It's like, oh, yeah, this will take like 10 hours, maybe 11.
Interesting. Well, thank you again, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Well, you take care. Let me know if anything I can do to help out, and I appreciate your time too.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye.
Bye.